What's up? It is Friday. I hope you guys have had a good week. I hope you've enjoyed the videos that have come before this. I know it is a whole lot of information, but I really hope that you stick it out and listen to it as much as possible. Rewatch any of the videos that you need to and just really pay attention. I know some of it is repetitive, but we learn best with a little bit of repetition. So the stuff that's super important, I have definitely repeated a little bit. But today's the day that we'll kind of tie it all together, and you'll get to kind of see that big picture, the why behind everything. So we've talked about 4 of the 5 life forces so far, and we're going to talk about detoxification today, but I wanted to open up talking about nutritional stress, which we've touched on a little bit before. I mean, now I'm sure this is all starting to make sense to you that, there's things out there in the world that our bodies don't recognize. There's, food out there that's marketed as healthy, but maybe it's got foreign substances in it and our bodies don't even know what to do with it. For our bodies to function properly, we have to have the right nutrition. It has to be food that it recognizes that our cells can absorb and use between all the different organs and the different functions that our bodies, do every single day, all day long. We have to fuel it properly. And it's not just what we eat a few times that matters. It's what we eat consistently. If you're going to have a treat every once in a while, that's not that big of a deal. It's the problems come when you either, eat a bunch of sugar or, a bunch of processed foods that have like foreign chemicals in there or man-made chemicals or whatever, or other types of sugars. And it builds up over time. If you're dehydrated over time, if you get not enough sleep over time, if you don't get enough healthy foods over time, like that's the part where it adds up. I don't know if you've ever heard of the compound effect. There's actually a book called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, and he talks about the compound effect through multiple areas of life. But it's really just like the little things that add up over time equal this big thing eventually, whether it's you're growing a business or you're learning a language or trying to change your fitness routine or the way you eat, whether you're building a house. Like obviously none of that stuff's overnight. It's the compound effect of a little bit of progress every single day, and it can work in your favor if you're doing something good for you every day, but it can also work against you if you've got unhealthy behaviors. Those add up every day as well, and then you turn around a year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, 60 years later, and those little things that happened every single day add up to something big. So my purpose, my mission is to help you right now get to the point where you realize that those little things add up and that you will be an investigator, be your own biggest cheerleader, be the scientist for your own body and figure out how to make it work for you to eat healthier, to help your family eat healthier, just to be more aware of what you consume and what companies you're supporting by the stuff that you buy, what you're putting in your hair, on your skin, what you're cleaning your house with. All of this is kind of coming together today when we kind of wrap up talking about the life forces. So talking about nutritional stress, we talk about what our cells need. Obviously, we've talked about water, electrolytes, oxygen, fats, healthy fats, amino acids, and all the nutrients that help keep us alive and well. Whatever doesn't fit into that category is an intruder. And that's the point that I was making with processed foods and sugar and other, just foreign ingredients that our bodies don't recognize. Our cells don't know what to do with it. When our bodies can't recognize what to do with stuff we put in it, it goes into a state of stress. So just like we said, being in certain environments, eating certain processed foods, that causes stress, oxidative stress and nutritional stress. And it can release more cortisol in your body. It can disrupt your hormones. So there's lots of hormone disruptors that come from GMOs, which we'll talk about in a minute. Even stuff that you put on your body, like there's some lotions and even shampoos and conditioners, cosmetic stuff that have chemicals in there that disrupt your hormones, and it can whack with your sleep. It can make you gain weight. It can just make you feel crummy. So all that stuff is important. It all matters. Okay, so on with nutritional stress. it is created by the food and because of its unhealthy properties, starting off with refined sugar being like the number one. Obviously, it's pretty obvious, but you don't realize how much food, processed food, sugar is in. It's literally in almost everything. But there is also tons of stuff that you can buy. Obviously, that's why whole food eating and clean eating is eating whole foods, but also learning how to read the ingredients on the packaged food that you buy. So I touched on this a little bit in the nutrition video that I've done before, but you know, sugar has 40 plus names, and you have to learn what they mean. You have to learn how to read them, how to read your ingredient lists on your things. Try to look for 6 or less ingredients. When you turn it over, the first thing you should do is look at the ingredient list. And if it says high fructose corn syrup, or fructose, or sucralose, or sucrose, or there's like all these different names. Honey's not so bad. If it's going to have sugar, if it's organic cane sugar and there's 6 grams or less per serving, that's not so bad. But you just want to be careful, because some stuff might have sugar listed 4 different ways in one food, you know, in the ingredient list. So you're eating 4 different kinds of sugar in one serving of one food, which is probably not even food once you get down to it, because there's no nutritional value. When you eat sugar, it's basically toxic to your body. The definition of poison in the dictionary is a substance that through its chemical action usually kills, injures, or impairs an organism. We're made up of tons of organisms. We don't want sugar to kill us, right? I'm not saying to be extreme. This is not like some scare tactic video. I still eat sugar every once in a while. And I still, you know, drink, you know, wine or beer. All that stuff has sugar in it. It's just about reducing it where you can. There's no reason to choose, like, peanut butter. Peanut butter is a great example. Either tonight or tomorrow, I'm going to put, like, actual food lists of, like, what you should start buying as part of a clean eating, you know, diet. Not a diet. I hate that word. Just the way you eat as a way of eating clean. There's just certain foods that you should stop buying, and certain foods that should become your new normal. And peanut butter, I still eat peanut butter, but I buy the jars that don't have sugar listed as an ingredient. The ingredients either say peanuts only, and that's all it says, or peanuts and 2% or less of sea salt. My kids like the Smucker's Natural that has peanuts and 2% or less of the sea salt. And that's it. There's no palm oil. There's no other oils. There's no sugar in there. Even the kinds made with honey, add your own honey, because you don't know what kind of honey it is. And you don't know if it's honey mixed with more sugar to make it extra sweet. And it's going to be kind of weird at first. If you're used to eating pretty processed and you start eating more clean, you know, things might taste a little bland at first, but that's where those spices come in. Our spice cabinet is huge because we use a lot of spices and herbs and stuff. It flavors the food even better. But so once you get a few weeks into it, you start actually tasting the food. And if you go back to eating something processed, it tastes super salty to you. It's really hard for me to eat out now and the food not just taste overly salty, because it usually is, because it's usually sitting out or sitting there or being prepared for the day or whatever. Packaged food, I cannot believe how many, like, lean cuisines and healthy choice and, you know, frozen meals and pizzas and all that stuff that I used to eat, and the sodium is so high in that. But you do need a little bit of salt. The pink Himalayan crystal salt is the best option. It's got like tons of different vitamins and minerals, like in the little crystals. Get a little grinder, get the pink crystals. They last a long time, even though the jar itself might be, you know, a little investment at first. That or sea salt they're your best bets that you can grind fresh, because it's got lots of vitamins and minerals in the salt. Sorry, my phone's trying to be crazy. So anyway, because you need salt. Salt is a food, and you do need salt in your diet. You just don't need to put table salt, the, you know, regular salt, on everything that you eat. There's no reason for that. But the pink Himalayan salt is your best bet. So we do need a little sugar as well. That's true, but we can easily get it from the fruits, veggies, and, you know, if you eat dairy and stuff, it's in all that. So there's no reason to add it to a lot of food. The bad stuff that, you know, it usually says added sugar. You on the, if it says it on the box, or if it that's just what they did is add more sugar. It's basically refined sugar, and a lot of it is high fructose corn syrup. So now that people realize like how detrimental high fructose corn syrup could be, there's actually a lot of companies taking it out of foods. So it might say on the label, no high fructose corn syrup, but you have to look, because more than likely they just replace it with a different kind of sugar. So it doesn't mean necessarily that it's sugar-free, which you don't want to buy stuff that's sugar-free either. Anything that says low fat, or sugar-free or anything like that that's marketed as healthy, it's usually not, because they have to make up for the taste somewhere. So if it's low fat, they probably added more sugar. If it says sugar-free, they probably used a fake chemical sugar, which is awful for you, and or added more fat. So you have to compare those things. And the best thing to do, again, is to read the ingredients, and then you'll know what is actually in it. I want you to learn what's in your food, what you're putting into your body. That's how you know. Read the ingredient lists. So consuming sugar has been linked to cancer, heart disease, high blood pressure, stroke, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, depression, and of course, obesity. It taxes our livers, which must process it. They turn it into body fat. That's what sugar turns into, body fat, through our liver. And too much of that, our livers become fatty, and that impairs its jobs. Like its main job is to detoxify. Your liver is your detoxification organ. It's like the main one. The liver and the kidneys do all the majority of the work in your body. And if they get too fatty and can't do their job because of too much sugar, then more stuff gets trapped in your body, and you just become more toxified. Sugar acidifies our tissues, which, as we saw when we talked about alkalization, it itself can cause disease. So just as sugar creates harmful spikes in insulin production, dangerously overtaxing the pancreas, it also prompts increased output of serotonin, the feel-good chemical in your brain. This partly explains why we love sugar so much. Eating it makes us high, literally. Too much of that and we crash, causing brain fatigue, which drives us to desire more sugar. It's a vicious cycle. So the harm done by high fructose corn syrup, it goes from, it doesn't just stop with obesity. They found that nearly 80% of them also suffered abnormal liver activity when consuming products containing high fructose corn syrup. We found that increased consumption of high fructose corn syrup was associated with scarring of the liver or fibrosis among patients with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Body-wide, sugar causes volatility in all of our systems, which just adds stress, prompting the release of the hormone cortisol, like we said before. Chronic stress equals chronic inflammation, which is the same thing as being sick 100% of the time. That's what sugar does. Too much cortisol causes hypertension and suppresses thyroid function. It acidifies our tissues and increases the storage of abdominal fat while decreasing our immunity. A deadly cycle can develop. An impaired immune system leads to increased risk of disease. Disease damages nutritional status. Compromised nutritional status further impairs immunity. Chronically high cortisol can cause cravings for sugar, salt, and fat. So the more cortisol buildup you have, the more you actually crave that stuff that releases more cortisol. When we satisfy those hungers, we worsen our nutrient stress, and yet another harmful cycle begins. So I noticed when I first started eating healthy, I didn't necessarily eat all the way clean at first, and it's still not 100%. Like I said, 80-20, 80% clean, 20% quote unquote dirty. But when I first started eating healthier, at least like eating more fruits and vegetables and stuff like that, I did start losing a little bit of weight just from adding that stuff in. And then as I started reading ingredients, I started losing even more weight. And that was before I was working out. I was literally just trying to eat stuff that was real food and less of the processed stuff. And I would read ingredients on any of the packaged foods I bought and trying to reduce my sugar intake overall. And that started taking the weight off almost immediately. Like, week after week, I would at least lose half a pound a week. It was crazy. And the further away I got from eating so much sugar on a regular basis, the more I didn't crave it. it was easy to not eat as much sugar. So it does get easier. It's the further you get away from it. Let's see. In fact, a study found that when our bodies get the sweet taste of, but 0 calories, this is talking about diet sodas and stuff. So if you are a diet soda drinker, I want to implore you to do the best that you can to quit that habit ASAP. Because sodas are obviously bad enough, especially the ones that are like super, there's some that are super sugary and have like 40 something grams of sugar per serving. And then some people buy those bottles. It's actually 2.5 servings per bottle and will drink the whole thing. We are supposed to get 25 grams of sugar a day as a woman total. 25 grams. I'm pretty sure in a can of soda, there's almost 20 in one can. That's for your whole day allotment. Now, it's really easy to go over that, and I don't worry about it so much if it comes from whole foods, nutritional foods, but, when it comes from nutritionally empty things like soda or ice cream or, cake or whatever, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it, because then you add in everything else you ate that day and your sugar content is probably super, super high. So the study found that when we get the sweet taste but 0 calories to accompany it, they feel cheated. It drives us to drink more of it, hoping for the high caloric payoff of real sugar. So when you drink something containing artificial sweetener, you're actually taking in a toxic substance. And this is also, your body doesn't feel satisfied, so you're more likely to eat other things that might be sugary, because your body is seeking out that caloric payoff. And it's your brain is saying, give me more of that sugar, give me more of that sugar that I need. And even though you're drinking artificial sweetener, it tricks your body. Anyway, it needs caloric payoff, so you're going to seek out foods or whatever. So it's actually been proven that drinking diet sodas actually make you gain weight. So stop drinking them. The most popular toxic substance, which is fake sugar, aspartame, is actually mind-altering. It's an excitotoxin, and it's been found to create brain lesions in lab rats, or lab mice, as they say. So it's not healthy. It's not healthy at all. Imagine now the scenario happening over and over again, as we ingest dyes, flavorings, preservatives, and all the other non-food ingredients found in most anything packaged or processed, the phony stuff that makes our bodies a little phonier. Then add in pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and larvicides from conventionally grown produce, hormones and antibiotics from conventionally raised livestock, and the petrochemicals from other harmful substances that leach into our food from plastic and metal containers. Every day we add a little bit more poison to our systems. We're feeding ourselves things that are actually damaging our nutritional profile, doing the exact opposite of what nutrition is supposed to do. They're even undoing some of our benefits of our healthy eating. That is nutritional stress. So little things you can do, like if you're warming up food in the microwave, make sure it's in ceramic or glass. Don't ever, even if it says BPA free, which is what you should look for, try not to ever warm up anything in plastic. If you have a plastic water bottle that sits in your car and it got hot, don't drink it. What happens is the plastic heating up, it basically leaches, the water leaches chemicals from the plastic into the water when it warms up, because it becomes more pliable, more porous, for the water to kind of flow in and out of that structure. So the heat is like a conductor for that stuff to go into your water. So then, or to your food that you're warming up. So if you're warming up food in like a really toxic, plastic, whatever, even if you remove it and put it onto a plate, the heat, while it was exchanging heat, it's already sucked some of those toxins from the plastic into your food. So I can't believe that they are still allowed to make plastic trays and stuff for like all the warm-up meals, the frozen meals, all that stuff. You think about how many people are popping those little suckers in microwaves every day and then eating the food out of that's been warmed up in plastic and absorbed toxins from the plastic. I just can't get over it. I'm sorry. But that's just one of the big changes you can make. Also just, really being aware, not just of sugar, but just the other stuff in your food, because if it's, if you can buy organic more times than not, the pesticides issue isn't an issue. That's why I cannot, I might not can buy organic everything all the time, but I just try to when I can, because if I never do, then I know that what I'm eating is adding toxins to my body every time I eat it. But if I have, sometimes organic and sometimes whatever, it's kind of a balance. I can kind of balance it a little bit. This is why growing your own food is awesome if you have the resources to do that. So try to drink more water, especially if you're drinking diet sodas. Do whatever you can to stop that habit. There's another obvious source of major nutrient stress that's nearly as bad as sugar. It's processed grains. These are grains, wheat mostly, that have been stripped of their fiber and with it whatever nourishment they once contained. So even whole grains don't actually have a whole lot of stuff we need that we can't get from other foods. So whole grains are good for you. Like I eat brown rice, I eat quinoa. Sprouted grain is really, really good. Whole grains, 100 times better than, regular white bread. But you just have to make sure that whatever whole grain bread you're buying doesn't also have a ton of sugar added to it, because a lot of breads do. And there's been a few people that are like, I can't stop eating bread. Bread is like my nemesis. And when I first started eating clean, I was like, I can't not eat bread and cheese and all this stuff anymore. Even though I was just kind of cutting down on it at first, I was so worried that I wouldn't be able to stop eating it. But it actually, like eating white bread all the time, doesn't even taste good to me anymore. And I was like a French bread with every meal kind of person. That's how I grew up. That's how, I just really liked the taste. And now it doesn't taste good to me. So you just have to give it time and believe that you don't have to have bread at every meal. I don't eat sandwich bread that much. I eat Ezekiel bread. One of the foods I'm going to talk about, it's live sprouted grain bread. They have different flavors. There's also English muffins and wraps that are available from it. But we even have it here in my small town in the freezer section. And I make it with toast, and it's sprouted whole grains, and it's flourless. So I don't mind, like my kids eat that with me all the time, and they still eat the white wheat bread every once in a while. I'll just get the brand that has the lowest sugar grams, because it's really hard to find bread that doesn't have sugar in it. And we get like the whole wheat English muffins every once in a while, and we get the whole wheat sandwich thins every once in a while, and then we try to get the stone ground whole grain wraps. So those are kind of like on top of like the brown rice and the quinoa, and that's pretty much it as far as whole grains go. I just really don't eat a lot of bread anymore. But once the grain has been refined, it turns into something that's just like a step away from sugar. So that's why bread is addictive too. Refined carbohydrates, including refined grain products, are the single most harmful influence in the American diet today, says the director of the New Balance Foundation Obesity Prevention Center at Children's Hospital in Boston. So you might want to rethink eating so much bread. Literally the fast food industry is built on bread, like whether it's the buns or, the sides or whatever. But it's pretty harmful. Because I started looking at food as like, what nutritional value does it offer me? Instead of like saying, well, I can't have this, I can't have that. I'm like, I want to eat foods that I know are going to give me something. It's going to be worth my money. It's going to be, worth my time to eat it, and I'm still going to enjoy it. It's going to taste good, but give me the stuff that matters. And then it didn't feel so depriving. I felt like I was nourishing my body and giving the right fuel. So like I said, we don't need to eliminate salt, just unrefined. We just need to consume unrefined crystal salt only, because salt is a food. Excess protein causes nutritional stress. We've talked a little bit about that before. Another invisible source of nutrient stress is the genetically modified organisms. The Europeans are way ahead of us on this and recognize that there are threats that come from seeds and plants that have been altered at a DNA level in a lab. So really you can't even like say that it's plant-based stuff, because it was created by man. These certain seeds or whatever to like make them more plentiful, or to make them grow a certain way, or to taste a certain way, or whatever. Just try to stay away from stuff that's GMO. Also, when something new enters our bloodstream, making its way all the way to our cells, our bodies have to figure out how to respond to it. If there are chemicals they don't recognize, our bodies immediately begin to react. Antibodies and antigens are triggered. Oxidation of cells occur. Try to eat real food 100% of the time, and your body will recognize the stuff, and there will be no need to buffer or neutralize, food. It doesn't have to send it into crisis mode. So like I said, it'll be a better payoff if you can put actual food in your body more often than not. Anytime we eat non-food, our bodies are stressed. So even though our bodies can adapt to it most of the time, over time, like I said, it adds up. We need to make a habit of asking, is this food clean? Does it contain pesticides, herbicides, other industrial chemicals? Was it made with GMOs? Was it created in a kitchen or a factory? Are the few recognizable ingredients accompanied by a long list of additives, flavorings, preservatives, colorings, weird-sounding chemicals, none of which we would ever actually voluntarily eat? Our bodies need to digest and metabolize every one of them, not just the nutrients. So we're going to get into more depth about reading ingredient lists before I quit posting in this group. So I might not get all the way through it by today or tomorrow. But one of my biggest passions is helping people learn how to eat clean and read ingredient lists and all that. And there's no way I can give all that information in 5 days. So this is just kind of like a starting point. So I want to work with you more on that if you want me to. So, cut the two most common, most harmful sources of nutritional stress, added sugar and refined grains, out of your diet. Do this and you're instantly taking a big step towards eliminating the harm that comes from the things you eat. Don't replace sugar with artificial sweetener. These chemicals confuse our metabolism and cause us to store fat improperly and are toxic to our brains and other organs. Use natural concentrated sweeteners such as stevia, luhangal, coconut flour sugar, or dates. Avoid eating anything that cells don't need for healthy functioning. Most often, this means processed foods which contain substances not found in nature and not really needed by the human body. Stick with whole plant-based foods. Eat unrefined salt. Himalayan crystal salt costs a little more than the supermarket kind and is a little harder to find, but it's worth seeking out. Refined salt is another source of nutritional stress. So this is the kind found in snacks and other junk food. Remember, unrefined salt is full of needed electrolytes. It's cellular food. It's also the salt that you add to distilled water when you drink distilled water. Avoid pesticides, herbicides, and GMOs used to grow fruits and vegetables. Even when we try to eat healthy, we can be dosed with bad stuff. If we grow our own food or get it from trusted farmers markets and cook it at home, we take total control of what goes into our body. I don't want you to become obsessed or a control freak and stress yourself out. You can't be stressed about it because we were talking about how stress negatively affects your health. So I don't want you to stress about it. And I want you to know that all the little things you do to make a difference does make a difference. It does add up. So just because you can't go from 0 to 100% today on making whatever changes you're thinking you need to make, it's okay. You're going to get there. It's a journey. It's not an overnight thing. We're not building a house in a day. Okay. So a little bit more about detoxifying. It's our system's job to do just that, to take out the trash, all of it, the natural and man-made. If you think about if there weren't trash collectors and trash would just pile up on the street and then eventually the bags would tear and the stuff would spill out everywhere and then it would become, bug and rodent infested and it would just become a nasty, nasty place. If our detoxification system can't do that inside our body, that's exactly the same thing that happens. We need our skin and our lymphatic systems to work properly. But our livers and kidneys are the main organs, like I said before, to handle our detox system. So we instantly recognize at a cellular level what we can use and what we can't, and then we transport everything to where it belongs. We replace all of our cells every decade or so, and some are regenerated much faster than that. So remember I said that, I encourage people to give it about a month when you start making healthier changes. If you start drinking Shakeology, if you start eating cleaner, you need to give it about a month because it usually takes 24 to 32 days for one cell to kind of die off and another one be generated. So, so it takes 10, up to 10 years to kind of do what needs to be done to regenerate all the cells in your body. So it's every decade, you're kind of a whole brand new person, but you have all the little cells every month or so that are kind of dying off. So then take it a whole decade and most everything's been regenerated a little bit. So 10 years from now, if you start now with healthier eating, you'll probably have a whole healthier body than you did, the decade before. So that's kind of exciting. Let's see. So free radicals are behind a long list of modern ages scourges like heart disease, cancer, autoimmune disorders, arthritis, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, cystic fibrosis, and more. Free radicals are sometimes created by normal metabolism. Other times they are a result of environmental toxins. Even the oxidative stress caused by intense exercise increases their number. A certain level of free radicals is necessary for breaking down nutrients, but too many and will be out of balance. These foreign substances, if not expelled, can lodge into our fat, muscle, bone, cartilage, and other tissue. There, over a course of decades, they linger, gradually poisoning us and interfering with normal bodily functions. Partially hydrogenated fat is something that you should definitely stay away from. Food dyes, artificial flavorings, preservatives, all that stuff, it really disrupts the way your body functions. Columbia University's School of Public Health released a study estimating that 95% of cancers are a result of either diet, smoking, exposure to sun, or environmental toxicity. According to the study, more than 3,000 chemicals are added to the food we eat, and more than 10,000 chemical solvents, emulsifiers, and preservatives are added to processed foods. Dioxin, for example, is perhaps the most toxic substance known to science. It is a class of chemicals unto itself, totally man-made, and the byproduct of manufacturing processes that involve chloride. Another common industrial toxin our bodies deal with daily are phthalates. I think that's how you say that. I always feel like I say it wrong, but it's a group of chemicals used to make plastics more flexible and harder to break. It's in like so many cosmetic stuff. Like if you look at what the bottles are made of, it's in that a lot of times. So it's used in hundreds of products like vinyl flooring, adhesives, detergents, lubricating oils, clothes, personal care products such as soap, shampoo, hairspray, and nail polish are also use phthalates. A study done by the US EPA by researchers from the University of Texas found that phthalates are widely present in U.S. foods, And while intake of individual examples were below the EPA limits, cumulative exposure of phthalates is a concern. So again, it adds up over time. A lot of stuff that's actually approved by our government, like, is safe. It just means like in that single dose, they're not taking into account how much somebody could consume over time. So, that part they're not talking about. Even our emotional lives and interactions with others bring into situations with a physiologically toxic effect on our bodies. Mental stress, as we discussed before, makes us more acidic. Stress also causes changes in our brain chemistry, which lead to inflammation, weakening our immune system. So this all comes back to how it affects our immune system. And if you can't have a healthy immune system, it's really hard to have a healthy weight, a healthy life. Your immune system is everything. So you have to have the nutrition going. The liver is responsible for around 500 different actions that we know of. Marley, wait just a minute, okay? I have Marley behind me doing a video as well. So our liver virtually supports every other organ in our body. So we have to take care of our livers to take care of our whole body. Today, kidney disease kills more Americans than breast and prostate cancer combined. So we really need to care for our kidneys. They do more than just filter toxins. They help maintain our acid-alkaline balance, our electrolytes. They regulate blood pressure and stimulate red blood cell production. Nutrition, hydration, oxygenation, and alkalization are the true foundation of our detox system. And that was all the life forces we talked about before, right? They're the real underpinning of our immunity from disease. This is the most important thing to remember about our ability to heal ourselves. A strong, healthy, well-fed body is an unfriendly environment for disease. That is like the biggest takeaway I want you to have. So while a lot of our goals include wanting to lose weight, wanting to be more active, all that stuff, it all starts with getting healthy. Then the other stuff is naturally going to happen, I promise. So also, if we take care of our bodies that way, we don't even have to worry about catching a cold, I could inhale plenty of germs and not one of them would really make me sick because my healthy internal environment would be too strong to penetrate. He says that, I say that, like when I say I hardly ever get sick anymore, it's true, because I basically have made my body more inhabitable for sickness. That's the true mechanism of illness. If we don't catch a cold, we create conditions through our tendencies, which are food, habits, and stress, to either welcome or repel illness. Nutrition is the single most important factor in the functioning of the immune system. So one of the reasons we were talking about how eating meat can damage our immune system was the fact that so many animals are fed antibiotics to keep them, growing bigger and keep them healthy enough to eat. The overuse of antibiotics promotes the rise of drug-resistant bacteria in us, which now kill more than 100,000 Americans a year. Even indirectly, meat can harm us. Antioxidants are a group of vitamins and minerals and other nutrients that fight the oxidation created by free radicals. Fiber is particularly important to the detox process. Both of the soluble kind our bodies absorb and use, and the insoluble kind that just passes through our gut. So both kinds of fiber are super important. We need to drink a lot of water. Dehydration actually hinders the immune system in several ways. We talked about that before. Even physical activity plays a part in how your body is able to detox. You can actually over-exercise if you don't also take in enough antioxidants. Like we said, over-exercising, you consume oxygen. After all, tests show that ultra-marathoners and those who do really intense exercise actually experience damage to their DNA as a result. But the damage can be blocked as long as you eat foods rich in antioxidants or supplement with stuff that's high in antioxidants. Let's see. Finally, we need to become more aware of all the toxins in our environment and do the best to avoid exposure. Keep in mind that it's not just where food is concerned that we be vigilant, but if something touches us, it feeds us, whether we want it to or not. So the things in our environment, the things that we touch, the clothes we wear, the deodorant we use, the detergent we use, the shampoo, all that stuff matters too. So learning how to read ingredients on all your stuff will add up over time. To take action. Take care of the other four life forces: proper nutrition, hydration, oxygenation, and alkalization in order to boost your detox system. Otherwise, you can expect your body to fight off disease. You can't expect your body to fight off disease and rid you of harmful substances you inadvertently take in. Don't be a heavy drinker or heavy drug user. Even so, modern life hits us with so much air and water pollution, so many unknown chemicals in our food and drink, such an array of industrial additives and irritants in our clothing, personal care products, and surroundings that we have to take care to avoid these harmful substances whenever possible. Eat foods and adopt healthy habits that support your liver and kidney function, since those organs, especially the liver, have to handle all of the toxicity that you absorb every day. Get plenty of iron, copper, zinc, folic acid, and the coenzyme Q10, as well as vitamins A, B, especially B6 and B12, C, and E, so that your immune system can function properly. Brightly colored fruits and vegetables are typically the highest in antioxidants, which is why it's important to let your eyes guide you. So just a little bit on how to get your kids to eat healthier. I started clean eating around the time my daughter turned 1, which is when she started eating more table food. And so it was really good timing for me. I know it can be harder if your kids have already developed habits of eating certain processed foods. I understand that it can be a challenge to change their behaviors as well, but maybe explaining some of the why behind it with them will help you get them to try stuff easier. Talking about how our bodies are intended to eat stuff that's more like whole food based, and talk about the nutrition part of it. I don't talk about foods being good or bad with my daughter. I talk about them being healthy and unhealthy and the nutritional value. I learned about the vitamins in the food that we're eating and talk about that, because when it comes to the processed foods, there's not a lot of good stuff to talk about more so than it tastes good, which, she still has candy and some processed stuff or whatever, but we try to incorporate raw fruits and vegetables as much as possible. My boys are 3 years old, and a lot of times they won't eat as much food if we put it out on a plate for them. But if I put it on my plate, they're all about it. So I trick them a lot and put it on my plate and start eating on it, and then they'll eat it too. We just buy a lot less processed sugary stuff because if it's not in the house, they can't eat it. There's not an option. And yes, they might withhold eating snacks for a while, but eventually they're going to cave and eat some of that fruit. At least it's natural sugars, and there will be some payoff for it, and it'll just create new habits. We eat a lot of trail mix. We eat really low sugar cereals, or I make homemade granola. We eat cottage cheese. We eat yogurt, the plain yogurt that you can flavor by adding your own honey and fruit and seeds. Let's see. I roast a lot of veggies. Everybody likes veggies. My daughter likes them raw, so I let her eat them raw. But you know, just by you cooking more clean foods and like refusing to cook a whole separate meal for them. Now, sometimes I'll cook like mac and cheese on the side. It's like an extra something for them to have if they're not going to eat. Like I have what I call these spinach turkey muffins that I make, and most of my family will eat them. And me and my husband love them, but the kids will eat like maybe half of one each or something. So to make sure they have enough food for the night, we might also make some mac and cheese or have some raw fruits or veggies out or whatever. All of them will eat some salad, and I usually just use olive oil on my salad or make homemade dressing. But we also buy salad dressings sometimes in the bottle that have less than 6 grams of sugar in them, and you know, as few ingredients as possible. So there's just ways to make changes where you're not frying everything, where it's not just chicken nuggets and french fries and mac and cheese. Just the more like fresh stuff you put out, you know, the more they're going to eat it. Another huge tip that I give parents is to just put it out. If there's food that kind of can sit on the bar like while you're cooking, or you know, when you know they might be hungry, and just kind of put it out, and don't say you have to eat this. Just put it out, and it's something that you can healthily snack on, like grapes and carrots and cut up bell peppers, cashews and almonds and dried fruit. All that kind of stuff, you know, hummus, and even if you want to put like whole grain crackers or pita bread or whatever, you know, if I have those things out, they're so much more likely to eat it because it's there and they see me snacking on it. So try not to let your kids eat or drink anything that you wouldn't want to consume. They are developing their lifelong habits and their taste buds at a young age. So it's important to just make it a priority starting now. Make your kids drink plenty of water. Typical children dislike water mainly because they're so used to like juices and, you know, maybe sodas or, you know, other like fancy bubbly drinks or whatever. So they see water as boring, but there's ways you can infuse your water with cucumbers, strawberries, lemon, and makes it really good. You can put mint leaves in it. But just, you know, see if they like it cold, see if they like it room temperature, you know, just try different things. Put water in a cool cup, put water in a cool straw cup. You just try to get them to drink more. Researchers are finding links between insufficient water and ADD and hyperactivity. So it's, you know, a great thing to try if you're starting to see some of those you know, symptoms, trying to really pour on the water with them, and before you know, have to go the drug route or whatever. I'm not saying that it's going to work for everybody. I'm just saying everybody can benefit from having more water. And also the food dyes, like red food dye, is usually connected, is linked with hyperactivity and stuff too. So reducing the amount of foods you eat with like, or that you buy for your kids with food dye and you know, preservatives and all that kind of stuff should help with that too. Help your teenagers understand that the food choices they make today can have a huge impact on their health in the future. As science has shown us, chronic diseases such as heart disease and cancer begin developing when we're young. So, like I said, you know, especially if you have older kids who you're trying to help them change their habits, explain some of the why behind it. And as far as vitamin supplements go, vitamin D is probably, especially coming into the wintertime, we're going to have less sunlight every day. Vitamin D is probably like the main supplement that you need to have. And if you have sunny days that you can get outside and just 15 minutes at a time, you know, don't worry about sunblock, because even SPF 8 blocks 99.9% of the healthy vitamin D rays that you actually need in your body. Go sunscreen free for 15 minutes in the sun. You absorb a lot through your head, and you can face away from it and get mostly your back or whatever, but even through your clothes it can be absorbed. So get out in the sun for 15 minutes a day and you will notice a huge difference. The role of vitamin D actually plays a huge role in cancer prevention. So try to make that a priority. And probiotics are good. You know, the right, like plant-based protein is the best, if you can. So take some essential supplements if you need to. Our current nutritional environment is such that we need to take supplements where our diets are lacking. This is where my Shakeology comes in, because it really helps fill in the gaps with my nutrition. And it has my probiotic, my prebiotic, my digestive enzymes, my essential amino acids that I can't make within my body. You know, it has B12, B6, a lot of other vitamins and minerals that I just can't get from even as healthy as I try to eat. But eating healthy foods and drinking plenty of water will help support, you know, the supplements that you take. You can't just take a pill and expect things to change. You cannot. It's not going to work. But you can take a vitamin D supplement, especially if you can't get enough sun. It's really crucial for cancer prevention. If you're not eating animal foods, you should most certainly take a vitamin B12, which performs several important functions. Take enzyme supplements, which support digestive health and necessary biochemical events that take place throughout our bodies. As we discussed in this book, most people should be taking supplements of certain minerals, essential fatty acids, and even protein if we don't get it from other animal foods. So it's just really important to think about your nutrition globally and fueling your body, and also having an attitude of, you know, gratitude towards what you can make changes to your health. I mean, we are in control of a lot of that. Yes, some of it's genetics. Yes, some of us, if we're older, we have longer, you know, damage to undo or whatever, but you can, and you should be very excited about that, and just have, you know, a positive attitude about your health. And like I talked about before, your mindset really helps you know, make the physical part come to fruition. So let me know when you watch this video, and we'll talk. I'll post more about specific foods, and if you have any questions, definitely ask.